let's go back to perhaps the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. Talk us through your early career in football, perhaps grassroots teams, Sunday league teams, before you ended up going to Fulham.
I had a very strange, in a sense of when I was 15 and 16, obviously I played for the local team, which was Dagenham, another local team, which was Sabadell. But what happened was when I got to 15, 16, I played for Ipswich Town as a schoolboy. And unfortunately, I went on tour with Dagenham United and I broke my leg. I came back and things wasn't the same. Got released by Ipswich and ended up going on trial at Colchester. And funny enough, the manager at the time was a guy called Ray Hartford, who was a very good coach and manager. And I never got took on, funny enough, at 16. So I left school, wanted to play football. So I had to go and get a normal job. And at that particular time, my mum said, "Look, you've got to go and get a job." So I became a salesman. Right. And I was selling furniture at 16. Wow. And it was crazy because you had to work weekends as well. So I never played football and I missed playing football. And then we got to a team called Fulham United. Phoned me up, said, "Would you like to have a game?" And I went, "Yeah." And I went and played for the first team at 16. And I took the Saturday off to play for this football team. And I was supposed to be at work. And obviously told the work that I wasn't well. Yep. And when I played football, and the company phoned up my house, and my brother answered the phone and said, "Is Jim about? We haven't got enough people to come and work. He's got to come in." And my brother went, "No, he's gone to football." And obviously, the company then said, "Right, you're sacked." Blah blah blah. So
what a good brother.
Yeah, my brother's like, he got the phone call, said, "Look, don't tell him not to come in. He's sacked." So now I'm out of work. And then a guy called Ron Foley, who I used to train with, and he was at Dagenham, said to me, "Let's go to Fulham for a trial." And I went, "No, man, I'm not going." Ended up going for this trial game. And the youth team manager at the time was Terry Mancini, the old Arsenal player.
Right.
Played a game. After the game, he said, "What do you do?" I said, "Unfortunately, I'm not working." He said, "Turn up at the main ground tomorrow. I'll sort something out for you." Went to the main ground, met Terry Mancini. He said, "We're going to put you on a non-contract, ground staff contract. So non-contract, just go and play, but you get paid as a groundsman." And that's how my career started. Wow. And that was in 1979, 1980. Then the manager was Bobby Campbell at that time. And then unfortunately, I broke my leg again as a youth team player. So I missed 3/4 of the season and I only had a year's contract. Got to the end of the season. Bobby Campbell pulls me in the office with Terry Mancini. Goes up to his office. He said, "Look, son, unfortunately, things are what they are. We're not going to take you on." And I said, "Well, that's fine, but I'd like to say a few words first." And I said, "Look, I've not been given the real opportunity to show my potential. I've only trained maybe 2 or 3 months of the season. I've played 2 games. But on the other hand, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and be an apprentice at the time." Shook his hand, walked downstairs, crying because I was a young kid, 16. And Terry Mancini followed me downstairs. He said, "The manager wants you upstairs." So I went back upstairs. And he said, "You know what, son? I'm going to give you another year's contract on what you've just said to me. I'll give you an opportunity." And went back pre-season. Bobby Campbell was there for a little while, and then he got the sack. Yep. And a guy called Malcolm McDonald came in. Yep. Took over. And I was in the youth team then. I had a year's contract, youth team. And then what happened was we had Jerry Payton, Perry Digweed, and we had another young lad. And then it was me, 4th choice. Jerry Payton wasn't having the greatest time. Perry Digweed got sold to Brighton. The 3rd choice goalkeeper was on loan at, I think, somewhere like Bracknell Town. And then there was me. And we got beat in the FA Cup by Charlton 2-1 on a Saturday. And the manager called me on the Monday morning. He said, "We've got Brighton tomorrow, first team game. You're going to play." I went, "Okay." Went and played this game. Done very, very well. I gets on the coach, and Malcolm McDonald said, "Look, we've got Swindon Town Saturday." And I was thinking to myself, "No, youth team haven't got Swindon Town. We've got somebody else." I said, "Gaffer," I said, "we haven't got Swindon." He went, "Yes, you have, the first team. You're going to play Saturday." And I was like, "Oh, wow." And I was 17. And that's how the career started, and ended up making my debut against Swindon, and winning 2-0.
Wow.
So nice clean sheet, and it started off from there.
Was a clean sheet, something you became famous for with Gillingham. But before I come to the Gills, you went on loan to Southend and Charlton, if I recall. Was that mainly just to get games?
No, that was so what happened was I got in the first team in January, and I played from January to the end of the season. I played every game. Got in the team, I stayed there. The following season, obviously, I've got a new contract. I then become a pro because I was still an apprentice when I made my debut. And then I signed a contract for a pro. I didn't start the season, and then I went on loan to Southend and played 6 games for Southend. And then also, I had a loan spell as well where I went on loan to Charlton and I played a game there. But that season we got promoted, and I ended up playing only 2 games that season,
right? And
we got promoted. So yeah, I was still only 18 years of age, so I was learning the game. But yeah, I say it was a difficult time. I was still learning. I had Jerry Payton, who was an international, Irish international. So being 18 years old, when you've played, I think you're very keen to keep playing. But the most important thing for young goalkeepers now is to learn your trade.
Yeah.
Work hard, train hard, and learn from other people, basically. But in those days, I think you were thrown in at the deep end. And that's how you coped, and that's how I coped. I think it made me a better goalkeeper, mentally, physically, just being thrown in the deep end.
Of course, you went on to sign for Southend permanently. Just talk us through that move. Again, was that down to the fact you didn't feel that you might get the chances at Fulham that you had?
No, what it was, I'd gone on loan to Southend, and Bobby Moore was a manager at the time. So I'd gone there, and then I came back and played in the first team. Jerry Payton went back to Southend. He played. He came back, and then Bob came in and said, "Look, I want you to sign for Southend," but I didn't want to drop down to, at that particular time, I think it was like Division 4. So, but I was still young. I wanted to play. So I spoke to Bob, and he said, "Look, listen, I want you to come. I've got a lot of connections. If you do well, I can do this, I can do that." So it was a funny situation where I didn't want to leave Fulham. And obviously Ray Hartford now was assistant manager at Fulham. And remember those years ago, going back to the Colchester route, he's now ended up at Fulham. And I didn't want to go, and Ray said, "Look, you've got to go to Fulham. You've got to go to Southend." But I was a young kid, and I was like, "No, I'm not going." But eventually I did go, and it got to the Thursday on deadline day. And you got to sign by 5 o'clock in those days. So secretary's got me in the car. We've drove to the FA. Great story, this. And we've got to the FA about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm now waiting for Bob to turn up with the contract to discuss the contract and for me to sign. And we're waiting there. 5 o'clock comes. Close the door. Look, it's too late. Bob's not turned up, and other people there, so they've closed the door.
Right.
So I was a young kid. I said, "What happens now?" And the secretary said, "Well, that's it. You can't sign now. The deadline day's gone." Within about maybe a minute, 2 minutes, Bob's knocked on the door. He said, "Like, sorry, Bob, we're closed. 5 o'clock. Time's gone." And he went, "Bobby Moore won the World Cup 1966.
That's what he said?
Yeah. "Bob, get in here now. Get in here." Brought him in. I signed.
Wow.
And like we hadn't discussed anything. Came in, sat down. He said, "Right, just sign the contract." I went, "Well, we haven't Don't worry about money. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. Just sign it. We'll sort it out on Monday. This was a Thursday. We're ready to play for Saturday. We'll sort it out Monday. And that's how I signed. Didn't just sign a contract. So I didn't discuss any money. Didn't do anything.
Didn't even read
Played
it.
on a Saturday, and then we signed on the Monday.
Brilliant. What a great story.
Yeah, fantastic. And you know what a lovely guy he was. He was a gentleman, fantastic guy, absolutely magnificent guy.
Must have been great to play for someone like that. I mean, his history in the game, and he's an icon, and to have played for him, it must have been just an absolute pleasure.
Listen, the guy was a legend. You know, watching him coach and demonstrate things, and you know, unfortunately, I only had one season with him because he then got the sack at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult. But for the time I knew him, he's such a lovely guy. I had a good relationship with him. Fantastic relationship. And we used to have so many laughs. I can tell you stories about me and Bob. I'll just give you one instance.
Yeah.
We've gone training one day. So we used to get trained at change rooms at the main ground at Southend. Then we used to get into the van, all the players, the staff get in the van, and we used to drive to the training ground. So we've all got changed. Players have all gone out, got in the van. So I've come out. It's me and Frankie Lampard Senior left to come out. So I've come out to get in the van. All the back of the van's packed for all the players. There's Harry Cripps. Remember Harry Cripps? He was.
I remember the name.
Legend himself. Yeah, he was assistant manager. He was a van driver. Then there was Bob, and then there was one seat left over in the front. So I've come out before Frank, and I went, "Oh, there's no room in the back, gaffer." And he went, "Get in the front." I went, "No, Frank's behind me." He went, "Don't worry about Frank. Don't worry about Frank. You get in the front." Frankie Lampard, West Ham legend. So I gets in the front. So there's Harry Cripps, Bob, and me. There's no other space apart. You've got to stand in the back of the van. So Frank comes out, looks at me, went, "Get out." I was 21. So I'm thinking, oh, okay. And Bob's holding my shirt next to me. "Don't get out. Don't get out. Be a man. Be brave." And I went, "Oh, I'm not getting out of the van." So Frank's gone, "Get out of the van. I'm sitting in the front. You get in the back and stand up." And Frank's like 30, 38 at the time. Legend West Ham. Brilliant. I'm a young kid, 19, 20. So I'm all thinking, I've got to get out. And Bob's holding my shirt. Bob's holding my shirt because he's next to me. "Don't go out. Don't get out. Don't get out." And I went, "No, I ain't getting out, Frank." And then Bob turns around and says to me, "You're out of order, Jim. You should have got out. You shouldn't let Frank, blah, blah, blah." And Frank drove in his car to the training ground. And I sat next to him. And Bob's telling me to stay there. And then the next breath he's saying, "Oh, you're out of order. You should let Frank in. He's a legend," and all this. So I was embarrassed, but that's where it went like, you know.
Oh, fantastic. Well, your time at Southend, I know it was only 2 seasons, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it an enjoyable spell for you?
Yeah, fantastic. So the first season I went there with Bob. When I went there, we were sort of, 5th, 6th, 7th from bottom, but we ended up halfway up the table. Then Bob went. And then the following year, I ended up getting, we got promoted. And I won Best Goalkeeper Division 4. We got promoted, obviously, and my contract was up. And then Fulham obviously came back in. New manager, Ray Lewington,
yep,
who was a player there when I played. And he obviously took me back. And what happened was, Bob had gone, and then David Webb came in as manager. Got the end of the season, and there was a mixture because Webby had left, and a guy called Paul Clark took over, and the contract talks didn't really start. Fulham phoned me up. I met Ray Lewington. We discussed it. I agreed, and we had to go to a tribunal because obviously they couldn't agree a fee. So
yeah, you were under the age of 23, whatever.
Yeah. So we ended up going to the tribunal. They agreed a payment there. It was set, and then I moved on from Southend. So I only had a 2-year period being there. Within those 2 years, we got promoted. I won Player of the Year. I won the Best Goalkeeper Division award as well. So for that period of time, I think I played every game for those 2 years I was there. So for me, still being 21, 22, to play 2 full seasons in League Two and still be only 21, 22, set me up for my career, I think, because it was hard. It was hard in those days. There were some good teams in that league. And Fulham was a league above them at the time. So I ended up going back to Fulham.
Were you in two minds at all to go back to Fulham, the team that you'd left 2 years prior? Was there an element of doubt?
I think being a young kid at the time, I see Fulham as a very, very big club. I've been there since I was 16. Yeah, I was there three years playing there. I still had a few mates there, and so. But Southend was a big club in its own right. I just think at that particular time, there was no manager. There was a manager. I knew Ray because I played with Ray. Come back to the club. He was going to sign players. They were looking for promotion. And it was a big club. It's a London club. And I took a chance and I went back there. And as you know, I ended up spending another 10 years there and very rarely missed a game. So
400 games, I believe, you played.
Yeah, I think as far as I'm aware is I've made the most appearances for Fulham Football Club as a goalkeeper. So I think it's around about 429 games, something like that. So that in itself, that's, for me personally, it's a great achievement. But I just wanted to play football. I love football. So, and I think with my character and my experience through the years, I really enjoy playing all the time.
So you were there 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it was, 400 games. What were your personal highlights during that period?
I think because we was always in the lower divisions, we never played at high level. It's always sort of, in those days, it was like sort of League 3, League 4. So, listen, there was, I say the highlights, I just love playing football. I love training. As you know, walking out to, in those days, a big stadium like Fulham, it's a magnificent stadium. It was a pleasure to be playing there, just to get out on that pitch and play games. I mean, I played against Newcastle with Kevin Keegan, Brian McDermott, all those type of players. I played against Liverpool on a couple of occasions. I remember playing against Liverpool when I was only 18, 19. Remember we drew 1-1 at home and Ian Rush scored the equaliser for Liverpool. So that was amazing. Then I played against Liverpool again at home in the Cup and away at Anfield. So there's a lot of memories in those type of games, but your bread and butter games, which was natural games, you know, whoever it may be against. But I just enjoy playing football and being around the lads. It's a great career, and I really enjoyed it.
So fast forward to the summer of 95 and a certain Tony Pulis comes knocking on the door. Just talk us through that move from Fulham to Gillingham. A, was it a move that you thought might happen? And B, who was the first person you had contact from to see if you were up for it?
It was a funny situation because it was my testimonial year at Fulham. So we're getting the last year I was at Fulham. That was my testimonial year. So basically, I was having the testimonial game at the end of the season. We got to the end of the season, and the committee I had said, "Look, what we're going to do is we're going to do your game pre-season." My contract was up, so I never thought nothing of it. Well, I'm going to have a new contract, so we'll sort it out for pre-season. So obviously the manager at the time was Ian Branford. Called me in the office. This is your new contract. Then I started thinking, well, hold a minute. You've offered me less money than I'm on, which entitles me to be a free. And I've been there 10 years on that particular time. But then remember, I was there for a couple of years before I moved on to Southend. Yep. So I had a period of like 13, 14 years there. And I said, look, you know, can't do that. You know, can't give me less money than I'm on. And he said, look, listen, you're going to get your testimonial game. You're going to earn money from that. No, that's for loyalty, in my opinion. That's loyalty. So we didn't agree anything. I got a phone call from Tony Pulis. Would you like to come down to Gillingham? And they were, in that particular year before that, they were struggling.
Yeah.
Financial side of it. So I went to meet Tony, and I went to meet Paul Scally at his house. So I went to his house, met him. We had a good chat. Tony, nice guy. Paul Scally, I think it was his first year that he was taking over.
It was, yeah.
Enthusiastic. He wanted me to sign. This is Jim Stannard, blah, 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 blah. So he offered me a contract. I said, look, let me go away, think about it. So I went back. Then I had other clubs, Wickham with Alan Smith. Then I had Rotherham phone me up. I didn't want to move up north at that particular time. Then Fulham didn't come back to me. So I've ended up starting pre-season at Gillingham with Tony. And I knew a few of the lads because I played with them previous clubs. And then we got 2 weeks into pre-season. Hadn't signed a contract with Gillingham. Fulham then phoned me up and said, look, come back and we'll sort something else out. Which, in hindsight, maybe I should have done because of my testimonial, because I've never had my testimonial game. So maybe I should have gone back. But then I went to Wickham for a couple of days pre-season training.
Right.
Because I still hadn't signed a contract with Gillingham. So I went with Alan Smith for a couple of days at Wickham. He then offered me a contract. I turned it down. And then obviously I turned Fulham down. Obviously, things happened at Gillingham. And funny enough, we got through pre-season. And this is God's honest truth. We got to the Friday before the first game, which was Wigan in 1995-96. Yeah. We'd done training. And I went to see Tony. I said, Tony, I don't know if you realise, I still haven't signed a contract. And he went, have you not signed a contract yet? Has Paul not done it yet? I went, no, we've not. I haven't even seen the contract. We've got the game tomorrow. If I don't sign the contract today, I can't play tomorrow. So it was really funny. So don't worry, don't go nowhere. We'll sort it out now for you. This is the day before the first game. So I'm in Tony's office. Scally comes in. As Paul Scally, as we know, there's your contract, sign it. Don't look at it, just sign it. It's all done. Looked at it. No, that's not right. The contract's not right. No, that's not right. That's not right. You haven't put that in. Oh, right. I've got to put that in the contract. Yeah, we've got to put it in the contract. It's a contract.
It's got to be in writing.
Yeah. And the contract wasn't right. So I looked at Tony and Tony went, oh, can you not just sign it and we'll sort it out Monday? I went, no chance. Listen, there's no way I'm signing the contract. Once that contract's signed, that's the contract.
Yep.
You ain't going to change it for anybody. So I said, look, Tony, now this is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I said, look, that's got to be in the contract. That's got to be in the contract. We have agreed that contract. Paul's agreed that contract, but left it out of the contract. So Tony just went, look, Paul, just sort it out. I've got another call coming through, Phil. Just
no worries.
Go off. Okay, so I'll let it just run off.
You're a popular man today.
Sorry?
You're a popular man today.
I'm always popular, honestly. I've, so I'm
back.
So basically, Tony said to Paul, like, listen, get the contract right. Let's sort it out now. Go and redo the contract. He's got to put this in the contract. Paul went, and Scally's gone, oh, like, okay. So he come back, half hour later, contract's out, signed. It's about 4 o'clock on the Friday evening. Done the contract. Otherwise I wouldn't be playing. And then from there, obviously we know how the season started and what a season it was. And from especially for Gillingham supporters, they had the previous year or 2 years where there was a bit of doubt what was going on, financial side of the club, and the club was struggling. And then obviously Paul come in and we bought all these new players, or we didn't buy them, we got free transfers. And it's amazing how a bunch of lads can gel and they're all free transfers. You try and do it these days, that'd be incredible. And I don't think Tony actually paid money apart from Dennis Bailey eventually, little bits and pieces, but the actual core of the team was all free transfer or players who were still there.
Generally speaking, what was your relationship like with the manager and the chairman? It always struck me that you got on with both pretty well.
I got on with both of them very well. I think that my character I was a very loud character, We had some big characters there in Dave Martin, Billy Manuel and Neil Smith, and some big characters there. And I think because we started off very, very well the season, and I think when you win, things are better.
Yeah.
And I think the chairman, because you remember pre-season, we played Chelsea, we had some big games. So we had big crowds coming in that helped financially stabilise the club from pre-season. And I think when we started off well and we started winning, I think the actual players believed in what was happening. And then you get that feel from the supporters. You've won 3, you've won 4, you've won 5 games, you're top of the league. And I think the supporters start to believe in. And Paul becomes a hero, doesn't he? And Tony becomes a hero. And especially for myself, having the season that we did, and it isn't just down to me because it's a team performance. We're all in it together. Obviously, because you have so many clean sheets and you don't concede many goals. You know, they look at the goalkeeper, but in my opinion, it's the back 5. It's the whole team. So the whole squad, we're all in it together. And it was a magnificent season. And the relationship with Paul and obviously Paul and Tony was very, very close. Very, very close. And I still keep in contact with Tony as we speak now. And obviously after, you know, I've gone back to Gills and been a coach after my career as well.
Yeah. When you joined the Gills, I mean, it wasn't simply a case, I might be wrong, not just simply a case of joining a new club. You were joining a new project, completely new chairman, completely new manager, a complete set of new players. You had plans to renovate the ground and improve things from day one when Paul Scally came in. So was that part of your decision-making, joining this exciting new venture?
It was funny, after speaking to, obviously, the chairman, Paul, and then Tony, and they sell you the club, where they want to go. But also, I knew players there already. I played with Dave Martin, who was captain. I played with him a couple of years at Southend. I knew him as a kid. I knew Glenn Thomas. I played with him. So there was 1 or 2 players. Because you've been in the game a long time, I knew players. So it was a new project. It was excitement. It was a new era for me because I spent so long at one club. And I was gutted to leave Fulham because in my eyes I spent 13, 14 years there. And in my eyes, that's the only club I knew. So it was a big challenge for me to leave a club that I was a legend in a sense from the supporters. I played all those games, all those appearances. I had a great relationship with the Fulham supporters. To change that, to go to a new club, it was a new beginning. And I'm sure the Gillingham supporters were a bit weird because you had Steve Banks there at the time when I came, who in his own right was a very good goalkeeper. He was a young lad. I think Tony went for more experience, obviously, because I think, obviously, Steve was probably about 21, 22, 23, I can't remember. But I was 32 at the time and played 400 or 500 games by that time. So I think Tony wanted the experience at that level, which I came with that. But my own personal point of view was it was a challenge. And, it could have gone pear-shaped. If it didn't go well, I'd left a club that I spent a long time to and had a great relationship with the supporters. So it was a big challenge for me. It was a big step forward. So to take that and believe in what the chairman was going to do and the manager what he wanted to achieve, and they both did, came true. But the best thing for me was breaking those records and having those clean sheets, and having that pour with the supporters where I had that big cigar week in, week out, and it was fantastic.
You mentioned those records. I think I'm right in saying you only conceded 20 goals that season. It was 29 clean sheets. For a brand new team, in effect, quite an incredible achievement when we look back.
Yeah, I mean, to have 29 clean sheets in a season. Yes, I know we broke Ray Clement's record. He was over a 42 or 44 season. I was over 46. But, to break those records, to have 29 clean sheets, personally, from my point of view, being a keeper, fantastic. That will stay with me for the rest of my life. Brilliant. And I don't know if you could correct me. I thought it might have been 19 goals, or is it 20 goals we conceded? Was it 6 at home and 14 away, or was it 6 at home, 13 away? I wasn't quite sure.
I'll have to check that. I'm pretty sure it was 20.
Right, okay.
But we did go 4 months without conceding at home. Amazing.
Yeah, I think we I think we only, like I say, I'm not too sure what was home and away. I thought it was 6 at home, maybe the rest away. But even in itself is a great achievement, and not just by me, because I speak to players even now, and we talk about that, and they go, "Oh, you did this," but it's not about me. It's about the whole team. It's about the squad, because you can't do it all by yourself. So there'd be games when I didn't have much to do, and that's down to them. And there'd be times when I might have made a penalty save, or you might have made a great save. That's when you come into it. So, in my opinion, all the players should be taking the achievement, not just me, because we're all in the same boat. We all achieve the same.
You mentioned a few players earlier. I mean, Tony Butler as well, Gary Micklewhite, Mark Harris, Dave Martin. You just adhered to him, but talk me through that afternoon at Craven Cottage, because that was where we found out we would be promoted. So to go back to your old club and secure it there, how special an afternoon was that?
Yeah, I think if we go back to the first game that we played them at home, when I think Mark O'Connor broke his leg in that game, when we beat them 1-0, Leo Fortune West scored that goal. For me personally, after spending so many years at a club that I loved and then playing against them, was very, very strange for me. I think if you can remember that game, I was very hyped up. It was like sort of a big game for me. It was a sad game, because obviously been playing so many years for the opposition and then playing for another club. And then we move on 6 months down the line. We go to Fulham at Craven Cottage. If we get a win, basically, we were going to go up. Didn't know that a draw was going to secure that. But to go there, and it was amazing for me, because I've gone there, first time I've ever been back since I've left the club. I've gone back, seeing all the supporters there and surroundings, and Gillingham had one end completely. I don't know how many, 5, 6, 7,000 people. Unbelievable. And we obviously got a draw that game to have another clean sheet, and then realised that the draw got us promotion. It was an amazing day, amazing night, fantastic. And like I say, those days you'll remember to the end. Having celebrating afterwards and going around Gillingham's town centre on the bus and things like that, they're fantastic days. And I think, credit has to go to Paul Scally, credit has to go to Tony Pulis, because they created a team full of free transfers, teams that they didn't want them players, and he got them together, got them to gel, and fantastic.
Was that day at Fulham your standout memory from your time with the Gills?
No, I think it's one of the days. I think, as you say, I was there for a few years, and I think my time there, the whole time I was there, was fantastic. I got looked after, obviously by Tony and Paul, but it was one of those, that first year, I think, me personally, was the icing on the cake for your career. I played at Fulham for so many years, had a promotion, one promotion now, went to Southend, had a promotion now, went to Gillingham, had a promotion now. So, as your career goes, you have to take it. You must remember all those good times. And I don't think I've had, in my career, any bad times, really. I've been very fortunately that I've had, in my mind, I've had a very good career. I've worked with some great people, great managers, chairmen, players, and hopefully they would say the same about me. Obviously my character was always sort of laughing and joking and got on with your job. But I think from my Gillingham career, it was fantastic. I never had any, in my opinion, didn't have any downs. Only when I had to come out and retire from the club, that was my only down, really.
That was going to be my next question. When did you reluctantly, with a heavy heart, decide I've had enough? It was a funny thing, because we got into the playoffs when we got beat against Man City. Yeah.
I'd done my knee about 4 weeks before the end of the season. So my knee clicked and I couldn't straighten it out. And I was going to have an op. And Tony said, look, I don't want you to have the op because if something happens to Vince, you're going to have to play, even though I had a bad knee. And so I didn't have the op. And then we got to the final. Vince was okay, and we obviously got beat. And then I had the op in the summer. Tony left, and Peter Taylor came in.
Yeah.
And I still had a year left on my contract. So I had the op in the summer. Came back pre-season. Was working on it, and I don't know if you remember the physio Wayne Jones.
I do.
So, yeah. So worked on my knee, and it still wasn't the same. Every time I trained, it flared up, and then I think it was around about sort of probably September, October time. Can't quite remember. Peter called me and said, look, you're struggling with your knee. We'll make you goalkeeping coach. But what we need to do is get you signed off as a player. And then you can become goalkeeping coach. So I looked at it and had a meeting with Paul. So, yeah, that's the way forward. My knee was a bit sore. Yeah, go forward. I'll become goalkeeping coach. I'm still in the game. And that's my next thing I wanted to be. I wanted to still stay involved in football in some capacity. So I thought that was next step forward. So one thing led to another. I signed off as a player. As things, people change their minds, then I don't become goalkeeping coach. So they've agreed to take someone else on. So I thought great opportunity for me to sort my knee out. So I went in for another op because it kept blowing up. And what happened was, where they took the cartilage out, they left a bit of cartilage in there and it's rubbing against the bone. So every time I trained, it just swelled up.
Right.
So when I had the second op, the surgeon came down and said, I really apologise. On the first one, we didn't take enough cartilage out, but you'll be fine now. But I had retired by then.
Yeah.
So I could have gone back in. So I thought, well, the next thing is make sure we get the knee right. And then I've got to move on then and try and get myself another job as a coach. And I did, and I've had a fantastic career as a coach. I've coached at every level from the Premier League to non-league level. So I've experienced every level with different clubs, worked in the Championship with Crystal Palace, worked in the Premier League with Southampton and League One. So I've worked with a lot of clubs, and funny enough, the first opportunity that came along was Ray Lewington was manager of Brentford Football Club. He phoned me up and said, come on, I'll give you an opportunity to get into the game. And he gave me the opportunity at Brentford. And that's where it all started from.
Fantastic. You just adhered to some of the clubs that you'd worked for and with. You came back to Gills to be a coach, done stuff at Southampton, you've been to Bromley. When you reflect on your career, I mean, you must be a very proud man. You must, I don't know how many games you've played, but it must be 600-700 games nearly.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I've had, when I look back at my career and I look at my football career first, yeah, I've played 600-700 games, and it's been fantastic to play those amount of games. As a kid, when you're growing up, you want to be a footballer. You just want to play. And I've had the opportunity from the age of 16 to 37, 38, 39 to play. So fantastic. And then, the next step was to go and coach, and which I've done. And I've spent from the next 20 years coaching, and I've started off at, like I said, with Brentford. Then I went to Colchester, and then I went back to Gillingham with Ronnie Jemson, who brought me back in. So I spent with Ronnie Jemson and Iffy and Nora. So I spent a bit of time with them. And then I went to Leyton Orient with Martin Ling, a couple of years there. And then I got the opportunity, I got a phone call from Ronnie Jemson, who's very good friends with Neil Warnock. He said, Neil's looking for a goalkeeping coach at Crystal Palace. Would you be interested? So I said, yeah, brilliant. I'd love that. And we had a joke, me and Ronnie, because he said, oh, you got me the sack at Gillingham anyway. So we have a bit of fun. I still speak to Ronnie to this day. And obviously Neil phoned me up. I was in the car driving. Great story, this. Neil's phoned me up. He said, right, you want a job at Crystal Palace? That'd be a great opportunity. And I was driving in the car. He said, right, take my address down. I said, look, Neil, I can't take your address down at the moment. I'm driving. And he said, well, do you want this job or not? And I said, I want the job. I'm driving. I don't want to cause an accident. Would it be possible for you to send me a text message with your address? And he said, I'll do that. And he sent me the address. I went to his house, sat down and spoke to him. And then I spent 2-3 years with him at Crystal Palace. And then obviously I was at Palace. And then the last year there, the club went into administration. So obviously come away from that. And then I got the opportunity for a good friend of mine, Gary Thompson, the ex-centre forward, who was a good friend of mine, got me the job at Southampton with Nigel Atkins, who at that particular time was in League One. We got promoted from League One to the Championship. Next season, Championship to the Premier League. So we had 2 promotions in 2 years. Fantastic experience working with quality players, managers, big clubs. And then obviously was working with him in the Premier League. We got the sack, doing very well. But we got the sack because a big guy called Pochettino come in. And we ended up getting the sack. So, and then I ended up going to Dagenham with a good friend of mine, Wayne Burnett. So I ended up being 6 years at Dagenham. And I got that in routine. I was in League Two. Then we got demoted to the Conference. And that's where I've been ever since. And ended up with Neil, who, as you know, I played with Neil for a couple of years at Gillingham. And also worked with him as well at Welling Football Club previous to this, along my route. And I ended up going to Bromley with Neil. So, and to be fair to him, the guy's done a fantastic job at Bromley.
Yeah, it's a magnificent job. Just finally, Jim, before I let you go, your relationship with the Gillingham fans, I know they hold you in extremely high regard. I think you're probably top 5 or 6 on the all-time list of goalkeeping appearance records. What are your outstanding memories of your time playing in front of them and the chance that they used to aim at you?
Oh, listen, even when I was at Fulham, I had songs and I went to Gillingham, obviously, because of that first season and what we created and what we achieved. And then, it was amazing. I had a good rapport with the supporters. And I think when I kept going, oh, here's my cigar, I think that became closer for me to them and them to me. And the amount of supporters who sent me cigars at the end of the season was unbelievable.
You don't smoke though, do you?
What? And the worst thing is, I was, a couple of years back, or not a couple of years, about a year ago, I went through this box. And in this box, there's a cigar box. And I opened this box up, and there's still a cigar there from 1995.
Wow.
25 years, this cigar. And it's still in the box. I've put it back in the box, it's still in there.
Excellent.
But it's, I still meet supporters now. Obviously, I was at Bromley for the last, year and a half.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of Gillingham supporters or Kent supporters. And my family live in Kent. So all my brothers and sisters live in Kent. So I visit them a lot and we go out and I see supporters and I have a conversation with them and they always bring back the 95, 96 season and the sign of cigars. It's been fantastic. And, everywhere I've been, every club I've been, I've had a good relationship with supporters. And I think that's my character because I blend in with them. And even away supporters, when they give me stick, I go with them and yeah, no problem. And I had so many letters from away supporters saying, you were fantastic on the Saturday, the way you perform with supporters, the way that the away supporters give you stick and you go with it. So, and going back to the Gillingham supporters, I think fantastic. And I will never forget my time there because of what we achieved. And it's fantastic because I think, me personally, the 95, 96 season has set standards where Gillingham are today.
Yeah.
Because I don't think where they were going at that particular time, they was stagnant. They wasn't going anywhere. Great. A manager comes in, Tony Pulis. A new chairman comes in, Paul Scally. They've got the same ideas. They've got the same directions. And I think that's where the club went. those two people gelled together, and they went in the right direction. And I think that is where they are today. Where they are today is where it started in 95, 96, in my opinion.
Yeah. Jim, that's fantastic. Thanks ever so much for your time. Hopefully when we start up again, whenever that is, we can get you back to Priestfield as a legend for the day. I don't think you've been back for a little while, so it would be great to get you out in front of the Rainham End and get a cheer, which you thoroughly deserve. So hopefully we can do that next season, Jim. But for now, thanks ever so much. Stay safe, and no doubt we'll be in touch.
Yeah, Phil, I'd just like to say it's been a pleasure speaking to you. And if I get the opportunity to come back, I appreciate that. 100% I would come back, and I would love to see the supporters again and spend a day down there speaking to people as well. But as you said there, stay safe, and hopefully this will all be over and football will start very soon.
Let's hope so. Touch wood. Amen to that. Jim, I'll be in touch, and hopefully I'll see you sooner rather than later. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, Phil. Take care. Thank you very much.
Man. Thanks very much.
Phil.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.